Okay, here's our video, the sixth video, living environment regions. We're going to be talking about proteins, just basically what proteins are, the function of proteins, and how they are made. There are other videos we will have that actually go deeper into that process. But anyway, proteins, we all know proteins. So let's get our pen going. What should we use? Use green. We use green. So let's get that working again. There's that pen. So proteins, it comes from a Greek word. We'll write it over here, proteos. And it just meant primary. And it's a good word for protein because proteins are essential for life. I mean, we have a lot of things that are essential to life, right? Oxygen is essential to life. Without oxygen, we don't exist. Without carbon, we don't exist. But for the macronutrients, protein is definitely essential to life, right? There could be a debate of whether you need carbohydrates, which we talked about in the last video. But every task of cellular life goes through protein. So let's write that down. Let me write that down. There it is, magically appearing. Every task of cellular life, proteins are involved in. So they have so many functions, Let's list some functions. Well, just basically you should know that they build, I think you know this, that they build muscle. They build and repair cells, tissues, and of course muscles. They make hormones, and hormones are chemical messengers. They make enzymes. Enzymes are they're vital enzymes. Let me get my pen working again. Thought I lost my pen. All right, enzymes. Right, so like for example, you need an enzyme to break down maybe digestive acid, in your stomach. Those are enzymes to break down food. So proteins, just as you know, they have many functions, and it's a very vital macronutrient. So what are they? Well, they're just amino acids. So let's clear this out. They're amino acids. So that's a fancy word, amino acids. So this is a really oversimplification, that we can say this little ball is an amino acids. And so when we get a chain of amino acids forming, we have these like peptides. And then if we get a bunch of more, peptides are really just a shorter chain of amino acids. So peptides, we'll write over here, a shorter chain of amino acids. And proteins are just a longer chain of amino acids. So we have peptides, a shorter chain of amino acids. Sometimes you hear polypeptides. You might hear that word. And then we'll just write our proteins over here. And proteins are just longer chains of, and you know it, exactly, amino acids. Amino acids. Right? So basically, our body wants amino acids. We're amino acid protein factories. All right, and we have, let's clear that out. Clear it out. Okay, and so we have about 20 amino acids in our body. Now, some people say we have 21, and there's a debate about 22, but we'll just stick with 20. Now, there's also 9, which they call 9 essential amino acids. I'll explain that. Let's write that down there. 9 essential amino acids. Now, these 20 amino acids the body makes, so the body makes its own amino acids. But there are 9 essential, they call them essential, because you need to get them from food. You need to get them from a food source, like meat, for example. Right? So meat has all those, or animal sources will have these 9 essential amino acids. And you can also get them, though, from non-meat sources like beans. Right? So if you are a vegetarian, beans can give you those 9 essential amino acids. And if you ever got protein shakes, you may see on the protein shakes, and these are very popular, right? If you're bodybuilding, or if you're not bodybuilding, even people who are not bodybuilders are, you might see this thing called BCAA, and that's just called branded chain amino acids. And you might see this in school. You might have your teacher talk about this. Branded chain amino acids. And they're just talking about the essentials, right? The 9 essential branded chains. All right. So anyway, again, our body will make 20 amino acids, and 9 are essential that we can get from food sources, that we need from food sources. Now, how much protein you actually should get in one sitting is debatable. Let me clear this out again. Clean out the board. Go back if you need it. Change the pen. Why not? We'll give it red. So, I mean, if you're taking, let's say, 32 grams of protein, your body will not accept so much grams at one sitting. So, because it does not, the body, right over here, the body does not store protein. It will not store it. So it knows when it had enough and what is enough. So anyway, you can have anywhere from 20 grams of protein to 25 grams, maybe depending on the person, to 32. And this is not a health video or anything, but usually people have said anything over 32 in one sitting, in one meal, may be excess. So when you're having these protein shakes and they say 40 grams of protein, that may not benefit you, because the body will get rid of any excess protein. It will store it as fat, and the rest it will just get rid of. All right. So let's clear that out again. Now, let's get into how protein is made, just basically, in the body. So to do that, and we'll get a blue there. We're going to make the double helix, right? I'll try to make the double helix, right? We're making, well, we can make that better, I guess, but this is DNA, the double helix, DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, right? If you want to say that twice, deoxy, let me write it for you, deoxy, break it down, right? Deoxyribonucleic acid. Sounds very fancy. So DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, that is the blueprints that make us, all our plans, right? It has genes. So this is a chromosomes, right? Our DNA is wrapped around chromosomes. And we'll talk about chromosomes in other videos, and genes. But then you have in a specific area of your DNA, and let's change the color, put green in there, you'll have some genes, right? And let's say that in this one section right here, we have, well, I should have 4 there, but let's say this one section was a gene, right? So there are genes on your DNA. And on your genes, they have these nucleotide bases. And we only have 4 nucleotide bases. And we're going to go into more of this in other videos later on. So then you'll remember them, right? So these 4 nucleotide bases, sometimes they just say 4 bases, there, and you'll see them as A, which is adenine. There's also C, cytosine, right? Looks like there's a C there. There's G, which is guanine. And there is T, which is thymine. And there's another one that we'll talk about shortly. It's a U, and that's uracil. But in DNA, you're only going to see these 4 bases. That other one will come in later when we talk about RNA. So let's say on here, and we'll change the color again, this color over here. Let's say that was an A, and there was another A, and there was a G, and there was a C, and maybe another C, maybe a T, an A, and a T, right? They will pair up, right? So an A will always pair with a T in DNA. A, T. So A, T. And again, other videos will talk more about this. And G always pairs with C. Some people think of a car in the garage. Think of a car in the garage, an apple in a tree, or whatever mnemonic device you need. So again, C bonds with G. C bonds with G, T bonds with A bonds with T, and T bonds with A. So here is our sequence. Now, to make proteins, we need RNA. So DNA will make RNA, which is single-stranded, ribonucleic acid, RNA, and specifically it's M, this lowercase m, it's going to be messenger RNA. And this is called transcription. So in transcription, and I'll write this over here, in transcription, this RNA, this singular RNA will come in and will transcribe it. Now, it will take the A, but it will not make thymine. Very important, right? Let's say it again. RNA will not make thymine. It will take the adenine and will use uracil, like we talked about earlier. The reason is because thymine is in the nucleus and RNA is in the nucleus. Thymine is quickly destroyed by oxygen. In the nucleus, it's protected. So what they do, RNA will use uracil instead. So it'll code for that U, and here again we have a C and a G, and so on. So once it makes this code, once it transcribes this code, and it's coding for a certain protein now, it's going to leave the nucleus. So let's look at a picture of that. All right. So it's going to leave the nucleus. Goodbye, nucleus. And it's going to search for a ribosome. And let's get the pen back up there. So it's going to, in the cytoplasm, we have what they call ribosomes. And they're protein factories. So we have this gigantic looking weird thing, and this is, again, an oversimplification. The mRNA is going to travel in the ribosome, and the ribosomes will code for amino acids. So let's look at how that is done. All right, change the pen. I'll use that color, why not? So let me make my ribosome, which, by the way, is made up of proteins. And again, with other videos, we will talk more about it. So in comes the mRNA, and we should have a different color for that. In comes the mRNA, right? And it's going to have a set of 3 nucleotides. So, and every 3 nucleotide is called a codon. So it reads it in groups of 3s. So let's just again, this is really oversimplified. So let's just say that over here was, we had some of this happening here, something like that. And it will read every 3 is a codon, and each codon will make a particular amino acid. So it comes in on the A site. There's an A site, there's a P site, the production site, and there's an E site. And what comes in here is actually another RNA. It's called tRNA. So we talked about mRNA. mRNA is the messenger RNA. tRNA it's the transfer RNA. It's transferring it. It's translating it, I mean. So this is called, it's translating. It's like you have this book here and you want to translate it. It's in another language. So it comes in the TNA molecule, and it does look like a T, but we'll just, for oversimplification, we'll just make this little rectangle here. And so it has on it 3 codes, and it will try to match a code. And when it enters in the A site, it will match a code. So here it is. And out will pop these amino acids. And again, this is very oversimplified. And so you have these amino acids forming, and they'll form a peptide chain. Eventually, they'll form a certain protein that will have a certain function, whether it's an enzyme, whether it's a hormone, whether it's going to build the skin, the nails, or whatever the case may be. That's what happens. So let's see if we can get a better picture of this. All right, here's a better picture, and this picture is everywhere on the internet. So again, here comes the tRNA, the transfer RNA, right? It's going to come in. It's going, see, it has its own little code here. It has 2 adenines and a guanine, and it is looking for a match. And here is a match as it enters the A site. You can see here it's entering the A site. It's then creating these amino acids that are creating this peptide chain over here, right? Right here, here are the amino acids. And this thing just popped up. Your body needs protein for growth and maintenance. We know that. All right, thing just popping up when it wants to. So again, here is the tRNA coming into the A site, and then we have the production site, the P site, where these things are popping up. These things are amino acids. Then you have this growing peptide chain, and then when it's empty, it just leaves. Just leaves. It leaves to the E site. Now, in another video, we're going to talk more about this. We're going to talk more about protein and peptide synthesis. Synthesis. Wow, say that with cinnamon. Synonym synthesis. Wow, that's a good one. So, anyway, this was just a basic video on proteins. In the next video, we'll talk about fats and lipids. All right, great job.